Marqusee has become a popular XR designer and YouTube creator. He is a great storyteller who, like me, is working as hard as he can to create better content and to make learning more accessible for you. He recently published a video talking about how he got started and giving his take on who's hiring XR designers and what skills you need to get hired. I have my own take on this.
There's a time in every designer's or creative's life where they sit back and ask, like, is what I'm doing fulfilling creatively, socially? And during my 8 or 9 year mark, I found myself kind of in a stupor. See, I was getting paid a lot of money, but I really didn't feel fulfilled. So I decided to take my earnings and take about a month or 2 off to find myself. And what I found specifically is that traditional flat design was not for me.
Yeah, same here. For as long as I can remember, I've always been interested in emerging and future technology. So back when the web was still considered emerging tech, I started teaching myself to design for that. And after spending somewhere around 15 years designing 2D experiences, I was making good money. I was traveling all around the world, but like Dan, I no longer felt I was fulfilled doing that work. And as someone who's very interested in pioneering future tech, they end up working on the same stuff for 15 years just made me feel like I was stuck, and I was asking myself the same questions Dan was asking, and like him, I realized that this traditional 2D norm wasn't what I wanted to do anymore.
Now, a month or 2 after getting into Blender and getting obsessed with tutorials and seeing what people were making, I found myself in VR chat and everything started to click together. I started to see this broader vision of what the future of spatial design will bring the mass consumer and how products will change forever. And I saw it as vivid as I saw mobile apps back in the day before they were a big thing, except this felt even more tangible and even more powerful.
I also saw the value and the potential of the future of computing and how we do everything. But this is kind of where our stories really diverge. When I started getting interested in XR, the tech wasn't available yet to the public, so I couldn't try it for myself. The Oculus Rift SDK 1 Kickstarter campaign came out in 2011, 2012, I don't remember, but it was back before Facebook bought them, and that reignited my emerging tech flame. But I didn't have the money for the Kickstarter campaign and all the high-end computer equipment that I would need, so I did what I could with what I had. I was at a point in my career when I was lost and disillusioned, so I didn't really know how to start. I just knew that things had to change. So to start, I took career coaching from Whitney Hess, and I can honestly say that it changed my approach to everything. She taught me that I didn't have to wait on the whims of business executives who usually play it safe and follow the more daring. She taught me that I could build my own future. So that's exactly what I started doing, and it's exactly what I'm still doing. My next biggest hurdle was that there were no XR UX design courses available at all. The only ones available at the time were obscure university programs that were centered around engineering or research and development. Even today, there aren't any that truly go in depth into XR UX design specifically, which is my focus. So I did my own research, and as soon as the cardboard was available, I started creating small prototypes with Unity and putting people in those experiences to learn what I could learn. And slowly over time, VR designers started sharing their learnings, and I soaked in everything I could. I know the pain and the frustration of trying to figure all of this out by yourself. And that's why I started creating the content that I'm sharing with you, focusing on the human aspect and the human experience, not the tools. To be clear, I don't want to devalue the importance of learning tools. It's really hard to test stuff with people if you don't have easy access to the software and the hardware needed to create the stuff that you need to test. For most of my early XR career, the only option I had was Unity, which is a huge learning curve for someone who's coming from a design background that's used to tools like Adobe, and now there's Figma, but that didn't even exist back then.
Well, I work at Bezel. So what is Bezel? Well, essentially, we are a product design tool for XR designers, and that includes augmented and virtual reality. Now, we were started by 3 engineers and designers from Meta, and in February of 2023, I was their first design hire. And since then, we have really found a really strong signal in XR prototyping and design. Now, we have moved incredibly quickly, and there's only 9 of us at the moment, but our goal is to create an accessible, and powerful prototyping tool for XR that can be adopted by anyone, anywhere. And because of that, there has been a lot of nuanced design challenges that we've had to face, and let me talk about those real quick. So the first thing we had to tackle was accessibility. Now, accessibility in product design is a very, very broad term, and in traditional product design, it is often referred to helping people with physical disabilities use a product. But in XR, it's far broader than that. At the moment, the majority of people do not own headsets. They own mobile devices and really basic laptops. And to limit our tool to just people with HMDs would be kind of foolish. So we wanted to create a tool that was accessible to anyone and any device so they can share their work and get feedback in real time.
I started learning on cardboard headsets. I would have loved this. It would have made my life so much easier. You really are getting in on this at a fortunate time.
Now, all of these challenges combined have basically led us to start acquiring major companies as partners and as clients. And because of our partnerships, a lot of the design heads of these companies come to me personally and ask who they should hire and if I know anyone. And I have had to say, not really, because there's not that many designers in the field. So they give me a long laundry list of what they want, and I've been keeping an eye out. So let's talk about the million-dollar question, which is, what are people looking to hire for? Well, there are essentially two camps. There are the mega corporations like Microsoft, Meta, and Apple. And then there is Camp B, which is the startups and game studios.
I would say that there's a third camp, and that's where my background comes in. And that's someone who is working at an existing company and defining your own XR UX design position on an internal team.
Now, each one of these camps look for completely different things, so let's talk about them separately. So for large corporations, designers there are looking for UX and product background, a passion for XR, knowledge about key XR principles, some 3D knowledge, and the ability to adopt new tools easily, and they really want people in the office. Now, as a product designer for these larger companies, it may be a little bit easier to get in if you live around the Bay Area or New York, but you have to be very, very problem focused, and you should have a pretty strong UX background. Now, these places are really, really cool to work for, but fundamentally, you will be working on small little slivers of products, and you will learn a lot.
I would agree with his list here. I haven't seen very many big tech companies offering entry or junior level positions in XR UX design. They want you to have an existing background in UX or product design. Pick the latest name trend. They want you to already have an understanding of this and experience doing it. And what he's calling XR design principles are another term for what the content that I create around XR UX design. So be sure to like and subscribe if you want to learn more. There seems to be a bit of a hypocrisy from big tech around insisting that people work in person. This is XR. You shout from the rooftops the benefits of being able to work from anywhere. And then you insist on your own team working on that exact tech has to be in person. Walk the talk.
Okay, so that brings me into Camp B, which is mid-size and startup. These people are looking for a generalist. They need people who really know how to use Unity. You also need to know Blender very, very well. Also, the ability to know C# and some coding will be incredibly powerful for you. And on top of that, you really should know some general UX principles. Now, working for startups has a lot of benefits. You have a lot more creative freedom, but you will be making a lot less money than working at large corporations. However, if you're working for startups, they are more likely to allow you to work from home. So this may be better for a lot of people, okay?
Yeah, startups do tend to want a broader skill set than more established companies. And this could also be the case for new startup teams within a bigger company. So you need to sit down and think about what type of job you're wanting. Another benefit of having that larger skill set is that you have a much greater opportunity of getting in on pioneering teams with research and development than if you are a more niched skill set. So again, think about your goals. I've actually been working on a skills assessment workbook for XR UX design. The link's in the show notes if you're interested in seeing where you currently stand. It will help you identify where you want to focus next.
So that brings me to what I would be looking to hire. I'm a little bit trickier of a nut to crack. There's essentially 3 or 4 things I'm looking for. However, you don't need to match every one of them except for the first, and that is a hunger to learn and a hunger for problem solving and XR. Now, I have a lot of people come to me asking help with their portfolios, and a lot of the things they show me are very, very pretty, but they don't really have any structure in problem solving. Instead, the problem becomes XR, and a tool should never be the problem. Fundamentally, I just want someone who is hungry, who practices their craft as much as possible, and is trying to solve hard problems that plague humanity.
I would agree with this wholeheartedly, especially for emerging tech since it's changing constantly. I've said this before, I will take a junior UX pro who's eager to learn over a senior who thinks they already know everything any day. I used to think I knew everything. I have since learned I was too busy trying to prove myself to realize that I was putting people off instead of drawing them in. Stop trying to prove yourself with your words. Let your actions speak for themselves. People pay attention to your actions, your ethic, and your attitude. Show your eagerness to learn. How do you do that? You share your experiments and what you're learning, and you talk about it. And please, 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 for the love of all things sacred, stop waiting until it's perfect and polished. If you do that, you'll never publish anything. Share what you learn while you're learning and tell a story. What did you learn? What are your plans for your next steps? Actually, go ahead right now and let me know in the comments what you're struggling with the most trying to learn XR UX design. But that's also my point. There's a community of people out there who love XR and want to help and root for you. Stop being afraid.
Number 2, I need people who know how to use Blender and 3D in general. If you don't know how to create things in 3D software, it's going to be a problem. And not just any 3D software. Things like Spline and all these other 3D design tools are not applicable. These tools are not meant for 3D pipelines. They are meant for some one-off stuff for maybe agencies or stuff like that. You need to fundamentally understand how to unwrap, box model, create materials, and manage assets. This is such an incredible skill set to have underneath your belt. And if you don't know how to do this now, you should probably start.
This, of course, depends on the specific job and your desired career path. If you want a general XR design job where you're creating assets and outputs, you'll need this skill. If you're looking to work on a team as a UX professional while someone else is creating all of the assets, then you'll need to understand the concepts, but not necessarily how to do them. As a UX professional, your focus should be on the experience. Getting stuck in the details and the polish will distract you from the overall experience and the overall problem that you're trying to solve. It takes time and experience to learn how to do this well. But if you're going for a job on a startup or a pioneering team and that team requires a one-stop shop for all things design, then you're going to have to learn how to put on different hats at different times. You can't wear them all at the same time. It doesn't work. It is an ineffective and an inefficient use of your time and your skills to distract yourself with polishing 3D models and UI elements when you're still trying to figure out whether or not the experience that you're designing is solving the problem that you're trying to solve. Again, it depends on your specific job and the company and the team. I have personally held 6-figure XR UX design jobs with no Unity development, no Blender creation, 100% focused on XR UX. I'm not saying don't learn these things. It's absolutely beneficial to learn these things. They have definitely benefited my understanding and will definitely benefit your understanding. The more you understand, the more effective you'll be and the better positioned you'll be in the job marketplace.
The next thing I need is someone who is product oriented and has UX experience. Now, this is really, really hard for a lot of early designers to have, but you don't need to have a shitload of product release. You just need to understand how to talk about problems. And a lot of designers don't know how to do that, especially when they're young.
I absolutely agree with this, especially if you're wanting to get into XR UX design. Before you learn any of the tools like Blender or Unity or Bezier, if you want to be a great XR designer, you need to know the fundamentals of UX and how to approach problem solving. I would also add that you need a basic understanding of the XR UX design principles or best practices, which is the content that I create.
And finally, the last trait I want is that I need people who are hungry enough to spend their free nights and weekends working on the craft. It doesn't have to be just in 3D or in XR. It can be any craft at all. And I really want individuals who are working in a physical medium. So if you're into pottery, you're into painting, you're into sculpture, any of those things would be incredibly beneficial. And the reason is because it shows that you're passionate about the 3D medium and you're passionate about creating things with your hands. A lot of people like to go to work,
you clock off, play video games, watch TV with their significant other. That's awesome. No judgment on you if you like to do that. But I'm looking for someone who will work 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day, if they can. I know that sounds harsh, but it's kind of what I want.
Yeah, this does sound kind of harsh. He's basically saying that he wants you to be hungry enough for XR design to sacrifice your free time to develop the craft. This is pretty much what it takes to get into emerging tech of any kind. I like that he's clarifying that it's not just XR specifically, but any three-dimensional physical medium of your choice. I studied interior design in college. I design and build my own furniture. I do woodworking. When I was a child, I used to stare at blueprints all day, imagining myself walking through them in 3D. You have to learn to think spatially. This is one of the biggest struggles that I see for my students. You have to get out of your 2D thinking. Picking up a real-life three-dimensional hobby really will help with that. I would say it's more about using your time wisely than it is about spending all of your waking hours working. Don't do that. That's not healthy. You need downtime. You need rest. I learned this the hard way in my 20s and 30s. I was working anywhere between 50 to 90 hours a week, and I was going to college full time. I was working so much that I literally lost days. And the only reason that I found out that I lost those days was because I got a 0 on a homework assignment that I thought I still had 3 days to turn in. I still have no memory of those lost days. My hair turned gray early, I burned out, I got sick, I didn't have the energy to even get up to go get help. So don't do that. It's not worth it. Again, it's more about spending your downtime creatively and wisely than it is about working. Don't just veg all the time, just some of the time. You do truly need rest, and that's something that we're going to have to relearn in our society. There is something very important that I want to clarify here, and that is that you can learn a lot about XR design by playing video games. That's what I do live on stream right here on YouTube.
Now, if all of this stuff seems incredibly overwhelming to you, don't fret. You have time to build up these skills and start getting your stuff out there. But I want to give you some advice to actually get you started. First and foremost, start learning XR design theory and design. And this means doing a lot of tutorials or taking online classes. Now, I want to make this very, very clear, and I may piss off some online schools, but fundamentally, if you're spending more than $500 on online schools, don't do it. Online schools are great. They are a great place to get, your foot in the door. But at the end of the day, certificates do not mean anything. It's all about what you put in there and who you meet at the schools and how you build your community. Let me state this to you again. Certificates mean nothing. Don't spend more than $500. And build a community. The majority of money you spend on online classes goes to admin fees. They often don't pay their teachers very well, and no one in my industry is looking for a certificate. If you come to me or anyone else in the world with a certificate in XR design, we will not give a shit. Fundamentally, you have to come to us with the work, okay? I hope that's not too harsh. If you spend a lot of money like me, good for you, but I don't give a shit.
He's right. Certificates don't mean anything when you're trying to get a job. They're great for showing people that you have a passion to learn and that you're able to finish what you started. But if you don't have any work to show to back up that certificate, you've wasted your money. I see a lot of students consuming course content, taking the quizzes to pass the course, but not doing any of the work. And then they share that certificate on LinkedIn, expecting that to help them get a job. I won't go so far as to say don't pay over $500 for a course. It depends on the school and the course. Don't just look at the marketing though. Look at the reviews and not just the reviews on their website. If you want to know how people really feel, check out Reddit. And again, it doesn't matter how much money you actually spend on the course. If you don't put in the work and make an effort and show that work, it won't do you any good.
The next bit of advice is that you need to build, ship, and repeat over and over and over again. You need to put your concepts in your mind on display on social media, and you need to do it over and over and over again. You can't just have a single case study. You can't just release a couple of things and walk into a job. It's not going to happen. You have to let yourself be known, and you can't be afraid of releasing bullshit, okay? If you haven't created anything in XR before, that's fine. Take a box, put it in a room, and that's how you start. You may not want to release the box on social media, or maybe you do and just say, I created a box, and then keep releasing stuff to better your craft and your reach. But I guarantee you, if you start releasing stuff and start experimenting and start sharing with a community, that's going to help you a lot.
You have to do the work. You have to show the work. These days, from what I've seen in XR specifically, is that it's not enough to have a portfolio with case studies. Remember that XR community that I mentioned before and that he just mentioned. We are on social media and we're watching. Share your work on social media. It doesn't matter how polished it is. Show that you're putting in the effort and that you're learning. Share your experiments.
In talking about community, if you want to get better and get hired at your craft, join an online or physical community in XR design. Now, there's a lot of us in the world, but we're really, really spread out. So I would highly suggest joining a Discord channel like the XRD Discord, link down below, and start talking to people and joining different events and really picking people's brains. You know, a lot of us are online just waiting for people to come in and ask questions so we can help them. So we're there to help you learn.
Agreed. I know. I'm an introvert. I know, but big catch, you have to engage in the community. Just being in there won't get you a job. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I see this problem a lot with my students. They'll be afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look bad in front of other students or in front of me. Stop worrying about everyone else. What do you need? Do what you need. If you have a question that you need an answer to, ask the question. Don't let your worry about what other people think keep you from bettering yourself. If you're afraid of trolls, here's a word of advice from someone who has a lot of experience and learnings around trolls. When someone trolls you, it shows their immaturity because often they're just in it for the giggles. It shows their poor communication skills because they most likely only read the headline and didn't take the time to actually read or pay attention to the content. It shows their insecurity because they're trying to make themselves look better at someone else's expense. And it exposes the people that you don't want to work with. But it's also very important in how you respond. I promise people are watching, including potential employers. Your response will affect whether or not they want to hire you. Did you respond in kindness or with poison? I've also seen instances where people come in as a troll, but then it turns out once you actually talk to them that it was a big misunderstanding or a lapse in judgment. So give people grace, and sometimes you'll come to find out that they're not such a bad person. So don't worry about the trolls. Do what you need to do to succeed with kindness and maturity. Check the show notes for a little link to Dan's full video. What were your aha moments? Let me know in the comments. You can click on the screen right now to see my top 5 favorite VR UX design books. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.